Melbourne's dreaded COVID count dipped slightly to 275 today, but authorities warn we've not yet turned the corner. There are nearly 3,000 active cases and a woman in her 80s died overnight. Fresh outbreaks around Geelong put the regional city on the brink of lockdown. The judicial inquiry into the hotel quarantine debacle is underway, and 700,000 students finally started term 3 at home. Andrew Lunn begins our coverage.
They're about to become Melbourne's must-have winter accessory, and the Premier's mandatory mask order prompted long queues at fabric shops.
This virus is not yet contained. We need to drive these numbers down.
The death of an aged care resident in her 80s has taken Victoria's COVID-19 toll to 39, as the state recorded 275 new cases of coronavirus. With 29 others reclassified, the total has climbed to 5,942. Of those, 2,913 cases are currently active.
The message in Melbourne is to stay home. If you're having to go outside, that should be an exception. And if you're having to go outside, then you need to be wearing that mask.
147 Victorians are now in hospital, 31 are in intensive care, with 16 on ventilators.
I don't want anyone to think that just because we've had a couple of days where we've seen a decrease, that somehow a corner has been turned and we can be less vigilant about following these rules.
12 cases have been linked to this Colac abattoir, leading to long lines at the local testing site. The cluster at Tottenham's meat processing plant has climbed to 57. 20 cases have now been connected to Lamana supermarket at Essendon Fields, and 173 have been linked to Altaqua College.
Every workplace needs to be cognisant of their COVID risk, that every workplace needs a COVID-safe plan.
As remote learning resumed for 700,000 students in prep to year 10, a dozen schools were closed for deep cleaning, including Charles La Trobe College, Roxburgh College, Toorak Primary School, Parkville College at the Malmesbury Youth Justice Centre, Trinity College in Colac, Grovedale West Primary and Drysdale Primary School. The Army is also becoming an increasingly visible presence.
Victoria has an open account with us, an absolute open account. They will get what they need.
And after almost 2 weeks of widespread restrictions, the government is anxiously watching the numbers.
Let's wait and see how the week unfolds. Certainly we're always happier to report lower numbers than higher ones.
And Andrew joins us now from Gisborne. Andrew, more than 130 people have been caught flouting the rules.
Yes, Pete, police have fined 138 people in the past 24 hours for breaching the Chief Health Officer's directives. 20 of those fines were issued at roadside checkpoints like the one behind me. Among the excuses officers have copped include a Swiss backpacker who was trying to go gold fossicking near Gisborne, a man from the city who was heading up to Mount Macedon to write a song because apparently the inspiration is better up there, and a lady from Footscray who was heading to Geelong for some fresh air. 20 people were also fined after being caught in a short-stay apartment in the city. Pete, as the coronavirus case numbers continue to climb, it's likely that by this time tomorrow, Victoria will account for half of all COVID-19 cases recorded in Australia since the pandemic began.
Andrew Lunn reporting. A spike in new infections has put Victoria's second biggest city on the brink of a new lockdown. Reid Butler is in Geelong. Reid, what have residents been saying?
Pete, some residents are actually pushing for their own community to return to stage 3 restrictions. That is a big call, one that would have a big impact on small businesses here in Geelong, but the fear is that the virus could hit this city hard. After all, we are less than 30 kilometres from Melbourne's worst COVID-19 hotspot, Wyndham.
In Geelong today, it was business as usual, less than an hour's drive from Melbourne, but a world away.
I think it's disgusting. I really do. People are just ignoring this virus, right? And it's not a thing that you ignore, okay?
Resident Margaret Russell is calling for stage 3 restrictions to return to her community, and she's not alone.
Everyone should be socially distancing and wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think we do need to be careful.
Greater Geelong's caseload has more than doubled in less than a week. It now has 13 active cases. But despite COVID-19 infections closing 2 local schools today, the Premier is ruling out a Melbourne-style lockdown for now.
But we're watching those every regional case very, very closely.
We're asking anybody we don't know for IDs. We're also asking have they had any contact with the Grovedale West Primary School because it's just up the road.
Grovedale hairdresser
Last time, but I would sit here and it would be crickets.
Geelong borders the local government area of Wyndham, Melbourne's worst virus hotspot with 350 active cases. The Meatworks cluster at Colac is also fueling calls for a lockdown in Victoria's second city. Right now, Geelong residents are still enjoying dine-in services. Bars, restaurants, pubs and TABs are all open with a maximum of 20 people allowed per enclosed space. But as Melburnians have seen, that privilege can be very quickly taken away. Reid Butler, 9 News.
Many, if not all, current cases of coronavirus in Victoria might be linked to the hotel quarantine program. That's one of the revelations at the first day of the judicial inquiry into the botched.
Now, finally overseen by police, retired Judge Jennifer Coates started the investigation into what went so catastrophically wrong when it was run by private security.
Have a keen understanding of the importance of this inquiry to the people of Victoria.
The inquiry has access to genomic data not yet made public, showing just how the virus spread.
Information already available to the inquiry suggests the possibility of a link between many of the cases of coronavirus identified in the Victorian community in the past few weeks and persons who were quarantined.
In fact, it may be more than just many cases linked to the failed scheme.
Comments made by the Chief Health Officer to the media have suggested that it may even be that every case of COVID-19 in Victoria in recent weeks could be sourced to the hotel quarantine program.
Also revealed today just how many private security companies were involved in hotel quarantine, 8 in all, which have been asked to identify their own shortcomings.
There are a range of perspectives about what worked well and what worked less well.
The inquiry heard hotel quarantine was an operation inside Emergency Management Victoria. They'll be called to give evidence, along with agencies such as the Health Department, Victoria Police and the Premier's office, as well as unspecified government decision makers. The Premier says he hasn't yet been called, but indicated he'll give evidence if required.
She'll call whomever she thinks she needs to call, and anyone who's called should turn up. What went on is completely unacceptable. We need to get the answers.
Companies and government departments have until Friday to produce documents.
All documents that are requested. It doesn't matter if they're cabinet documents or anything else, they must be provided.
After a hearing of only an hour, witnesses will be called next month. Brett McLeod, 9 News.